Chapter 3: Fooling Hitler. Hitler knew that the Allies were planning to invade Western Europe. However, he didn't know where or when. To keep Hitler in the dark, the Allies used spies, lies, and clever tricks. Special teams were formed, including engineers, double agents, and movie makers. To fake out the Germans, the Allies set up a big army base in Dover, England. Dover was right across from Calais, France. The base looked real, but it was phony. German spy planes flying overhead saw hundreds of tanks that seemed made of steel, but really, they were made of rubber, blown up like giant balloons. Sounds of clanking tanks blared from recordings. Even the tire tracks that led away from the tanks were faked. It also looked as if trucks, jeeps, planes, and ships filled the base. They were actually made out of painted canvas stretched over wooden frames. The pretend army was a genius mix of Hollywood and high tech. U.S. General George Patton was chosen to lead the make believe army at Dover. Patton was the Allies' most famous general, just the man Hitler expected to head a real attack. The Allies had newspapers run stories with photos of Patton visiting his bogus troops. Radio airwaves broadcast false news about plans set for Calais. German spies picked up the radio messages and relayed them to Hitler. The bluff worked. Hitler sent 200,000 of his best soldiers to Calais to fight an invasion that never came. He didn't leave the Normandy beaches unguarded, but on D-Day, when the Allies landed there, all the Calais troops were 200 miles away from where the real fighting took place. Many of Hitler's spies had actually become double agents. They had landed in England by parachute, rubber boats, and submarines. Once there, however, most of the spies were captured. They ended up working for the Allies while still pretending to be on Hitler's side. The spies fed Hitler a steady stream of false information. It was a dangerous setup. If one double agent was found out, Hitler would suspect the whole scheme. But he never did. Double trouble. The Allies' cleverest double agent went by the name Garbo. His real name was Juan Pujol Garcia. He invented a group of 36 spies that fed Hitler secret reports from all over England. Garbo and his spies gave Hitler pieces of real information to gain his trust. Then the Nazis were fed lies. Hitler found the reports so believable that he awarded Garbo his highest Medal of Honor. On D-Day itself, Garbo convinced Hitler that the attack was not the real invasion. "You have to believe me," he said, and Hitler did. A network of spies also worked in France. Tens of thousands of French men and women were in the French resistance. These daring citizens did whatever they could to undermine the Nazis. They rescued stranded airmen, forged papers, and reported on the up-to-date comings and goings of German troops. French artists drew maps of Normandy landmarks to prepare Allied soldiers for D-Day. How did the French slip messages into England? One way was by using carrier pigeons. The birds flew 8 hours round trip across the English Channel with messages attached to their claws. The tricks played by the Allies continued right up to the attack. Early on D-Day morning, planes dropped hundreds of paratroopers far from the real battle sites. Although dressed in helmets and uniforms, the paratroopers were dummies. Bombs attached to the dummies burst into flames upon landing. Some real troopers landed near the dummies and added to the effect of a major battle. They lit flares and blared sounds of gunfire over loudspeakers. They sent out chemicals that smelled like exploding shells. German troops fell for it. Hundreds of soldiers raced to the phony attack site in the opposite direction of the real one. The Allies' false reports, fake armies, and misleading radio signals saved countless lives on D-Day and afterward. During an interview after the war, Ike grinned and said, "By God, we really fooled them, didn't we?"